Well, hello, Dawn Bates.
Welcome to the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez. Entrepreneurs are leading the way and creating a whole new level of possibility. Each week, listen in to hear how brilliant entrepreneurs share their brave secrets. Entrepreneurship is not the easy way. It is the brave way. Now let's get our brave on.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, darling. How are you?
Amazing. So first question, where in the world are you physically? Well,
floating here and there. Actually, right now, I'm in Buenos Aires, and I have to keep reminding myself that's where I am. So yeah, I'm in the capital of Argentina.
Amazing. Yes. And so, of course, there's a story behind that. And I want to start with that really quick. I love how you live your life and run your business. So first, share with us, obviously the work that you do in the world, and then tell everybody a little bit about that.
Well, I help women transform their life and own their power by owning who they are and giving them the gift of freedom by writing a book. So although I'm not a writing coach, I'm an author coach. And it's about embracing all elements of that life. So everything from businesses, owning your self-worth, owning your truth, speaking it. Because when we own our own truth and speak it, that's the best kind of freedom that we can ever have.
For sure.
And I do that whilst sailing around the world, writing my own books and coaching my clients completely online, which I've been doing now for just over 2 years.
Amazing. I'm like, and that's why I ask, I'm like, where are you like in the world? Because I know you sail around the world. And so I think some people would love to know, how do you do that? Do you have Wi-Fi on the boat or no? Or do you land, on port, or what do you do? How do you do that?
At the moment, because I'm researching for a next series of books that I'm writing called The Mermaid's Guide, and I'm looking into different kinds of leadership. So I'm hitchhiking around the world on boats at the moment.
Wow.
And so in the last 2 years, I've been on 17 different vessels, ranging from a little 45-footer up until a 55-meter.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing. Being at the helm of one of those, that was amazing. So it's and different nationalities as well. Mm-hmm. So it's about learning how different cultural communication, cultural dynamics, and looking at the diversity of people on board, because I've done a lot of work in cultural diversity and leadership over the last 20 years.
Right.
So now it's about bringing all of that full circle, looking at the differences between leadership and cultural diversity on land, but also how it works at sea. Because when you're out in the middle of an ocean, you need to get on, you need to communicate, lives are at stake.
Wow.
And yeah, very different. So.
Interesting. And I love to hear all this. And of course I could go into the, tell me more, right? Tell me more, but I'd love to circle back. The fact that you live your life this way, number one, you're a mom, and you've got 2 kids, right? And, and so I just want to speak to the possibility that, number one, how did you get to the possibility that you could do this? First of all, help people understand that. And then, how do you have to, how do you manage yourself and your mindset and your beliefs about what's possible in order to do what you're doing and to hitchhike, boats and to sail around the world and to serve people from that place? What did you have to go through to get to that point?
Oh, I've died a dozen deaths, Jena.
9 lives, right?
9 lives. And then some. And I think, you'll relate to this, the work that we do, when we dive in deep into our own journey as well as into our clients' journey, we tend to cycle through and we die a death every month.
Yes.
I know I do.
Yeah.
Where it all began was sat on the beach when I was 8 years old. My dad was a beach fisherman, and we were sat there one night. My brother and sister had gone back to the bungalow, and I'm sat there going, I want to go live out there. you know, or like, it's just, and I said to my mum, I'm going to go live out there. And she was like, yeah. She knew it was going to happen even when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
And this is the thing, once I get something in my mind, I am like a dog with bone, and it is never going to stop, and it never goes away. It evolves, but if I say I'm going to do something, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I got married. There's no way he was going to be at sea. He's a city boy. We had children. My oldest is 17 at the moment. My youngest is 13. I am away from them. They do live with their dad. It is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. But, you know, we had family meetings leading up to this. It took probably about 2-3 years. I mean, I've had my own businesses since I was 21. And I've been, like I said, working in leadership, cultural diversity, regional regeneration. I've coached people through universities, through business organizations. I've mentored them. I've delivered training. And, you know, and so it's, coaching and mentoring people is not a new thing for me.
Right.
I've been doing it for 21 years in various guises. But I've always wanted to travel the world. But I never wanted to fly around the world, because being a hippie, as my boys call me, flying around the world just didn't sit with me environmentally. Being on the ocean is the only place, or by the ocean is the only place my soul feels it's at rest and it's at peace. And the level of peace I feel when I'm by or on or in the ocean. And I remember listening to a friend of mine, Ali's podcast. I was in the bath one night. The boys were having games and pizza night. And I'm in the bath and I'm listening to this podcast. By the end of it, I'm in floods of tears. I'm like, I'm on my knees in the bath, crying my eyes out. I'm like, why am I here? Why am I still on land? I can't do this anymore. I can't stay on land. I've got to be out on the ocean. Like, it was as if those of your listeners who have ever heard of Carlos Castanedas and the teachings of Don Juan, they'll know about the tonal and the nagal that comes out of you. It's like your light connection to the universe and to earth, and it's pulling you. Its soul was screaming at me like, why? Like, and I'm like, I'm listening. I'm finally listening.
I hear you loud and clear.
I can hear you. You don't need to scream at me anymore. And I think this is the thing, when you listen to soul, when you have been through as many curveballs as I have, which people can read about in my books, and you've been in business and you've seen the way it's been done, and you're like, there's got to be more. And it's always that curiosity, there's always more. You know, and I saw people doing the location-free thing, and where they'd go and they'd, you know, go and spend a month or a couple of weeks here and take loads of photos and then put it up on the social media, and then they'd carry on working. It's a lot of people I know.
Yeah, there's a lot. And that's okay if that's all you can do, but
absolutely. We've all got to do what we can do.
Right.
We've got to do what makes our own soul sing and our heart soar. And so for me, going off and doing this, it was a non-negotiable. And my youngest, I mean, he was 11 when we did. He goes, Mummy, you just got to go do you. I was like, I know.
Oh, wow.
He goes, and anyway, if you wait until I finish school, he goes, you're going to be too old, so you've got to go do it now.
Yeah, that if not now, when conversation.
Absolutely, if not now, when. Yeah, because he hasn't finished school for a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's still got 3 more years of high school, another couple of years of sixth form, and maybe if he chooses to go to university. So if I'd have waited, I'd have been well into my 50s, mid-50s. No, not waiting that long. I've lost your sound. I've lost sound.
Oh, thank you. I hit the button. What I was saying was, I think it's really interesting, thank you, how your children, through whether it was your communication or what have you, saw that it was really important to you that this is this is something that had to be done. And of course, for that young child to be able to reflect back, like, you'll be old when if you wait too long, right? If you wait till I'm out of high school or whatever. But and I'm sure it has been a challenge and such, but I think that's the important thing, is when you listen to your soul. Like, I think that's the common thread of this conversation, is if something since 8 years old, and you allow your circumstances, whatever they are, to diminish the right and the deservedness for you to have that, or your timeline, or I think we put so many limitations and so many can'ts and so many, I got to wait until then. I talk about the ego trick called when then, right? When they graduate.
Yeah. I love your ego tricks, Jena.
Right? Yes, you and me and the ego tricks. And so what were the next steps for you? I mean, you've heard the call, you listened to it, you were ready to have that conversation with your children and your family. And was there a time that it felt uncomfortable and difficult to take the actions, and you just moved through it, or was it easy peasy?
Oh, it was both.
Okay.
Because again, it's like when you listen to soul, you know that it's just a non-negotiable. It's easy to move past it all and move through it all. But also, I remember going to my mum's and saying, right, this is it. The boys and I have been discussing this. I mean, even my ex-husband, we've been together 18 years. He moved into my apartment and I signed it over to him because, again, if you don't haul anchor, boat's not going anywhere.
Right.
Great metaphor for life. And he was like, you've got to go do this. Like, this has been, he knew, we're still good friends, and he knew that if I didn't do this, I would just go crazy. And I remember the build up to leaving. I'd sit on the couch, like the boys and I would snuggle together, like to watch a movie, and we'd be sat at the dinner table, and tears would fall. Not tears, and they were mixed tears, because there were tears of happiness that it was getting closer and closer and closer, but also that the family meal times weren't going to be there. We've always had family meal times. Every morning breakfast, an hour at the breakfast table. We'd be discussing, doing gratitude. We did like what they're going to do for the day, playing a game of cards. Every evening, family meal time. Once a week, family meeting, without fail. And so the boys have always been involved with family decisions. They've always been involved with, the conversation. And, we discussed whether they went to boarding school, and that was like, I'm not going to boarding school. I was like, okay. My youngest was like, I'll go to boarding school. Very different children.
Yeah.
But again, they were involved in it. And I remember the boys flew to New Zealand with me, and we spent 5 weeks there. The last 2 days, I was in bits. I was just crying, hugging them. They were like, Mummy, will you just get off us? I'm like, well, I'm going to miss.
It's gonna be okay.
It's okay. We're like, what? And like, they fly around the world by themselves now. And the thing is, one of the greatest gifts that I've given my children is the fact that, other than birthing them, is the fact that they now get to travel solo, and they've become so streetwise and so aware of what they are capable of.
Yes.
And they're seeing how happy I am following my dream, and they're seeing how much I'm capable of. And I remember when I went overboard, and when I was crossing from mainland Europe to the Canaries, and I went down on the deck in a storm, smashed my front teeth, went overboard, got pulled back on, managed to, we ended up changing and going to land, and I managed to speak to them.
Wow.
And we went back and, just carried on, because you've got a job to do. You've got to deliver a boat. And I got a message when we finally got to the Canaries from my youngest. He goes, Mommy, I'm so proud of you. You're so bad. He goes, you just got back on a boat after going overboard and smashing your teeth.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is that?
How brave is that?
Yeah. Like,
wow.
And I'm like, because for me, again, it's like, it's not about, I don't kind of think about that.
Yeah, of course.
because it's just normal. Okay, well, there's a job to do. Just get on and do it. What are you making excuses about? Just like, you've got to get this boat from here to there. You've got to get back on the boat. And if you're not going to sail it, why are you on it?
Right. Right. Yeah. It's just like, it's just non-negotiable. And you had, and I think for me, there's moments where there's just kind of brave by survival, where our, you know, our egoic self is just going to get the job done. And especially if you've gone through pain or hurt or the potential of death, falling off the boat all of a sudden. And yet you know, you come back and you're like, I'm here to solve a problem. I'm here to get this done, you know, and that part of us takes over. So it doesn't feel so triumph, like some big triumph. And yet to others, it's like, wow, notice you do have a choice in the matter, and you chose to stay the course. I mean, no pun intended. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think this is the thing. I think the biggest thing for me out of all of that was when you look in the mirror and you don't have teeth.
Yeah, wow.
Well, you do, but yeah, I mean, I've always been I've had a bit of a thing for teeth. Like,
okay, got it.
A tooth fascist, right? And I was like, oh, well, that was a wake-up call, wasn't it? Like, you know,
yes.
The universe had something to tell me about the hang up I have about teeth being perfect. It's having them smashed.
Wow.
But when you look in the mirror and you see that you have no teeth, you go, I'm no longer beautiful. That was really confronting. And then I've gone and had a cup of tea and I've gone back, you know what, I am still beautiful, because it doesn't matter what I look like. It's the person. I gave myself a right telling off in that mirror. Went in there and I was like, right then, you.
Unbelievable.
Because we're all beautiful in our own way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that brings me to what, you know, the things that we become very attached to, right? The anchors that we put in our lives, whether it's to how we look and how fast that can change. Of course, we're living in a pandemic world right this minute as we record this, and, you know, and the choices and the perspectives and you know, the opportunities within that, you know, we are up against change, and we are up against adaptability, and we're up against how do we respond, and how do we turn the experience into something that empowers us and propels us forward and creates that container to have what's next. You know, you can either sink in the boat right now, like you can choose to sink, or you can get on top of that boat and sail it to the other side. Right? No pun intended.
Yeah. No, it's all, I love this. I love the sailing analogies. Keep them coming. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. We were in 6-meter waves. I mean, they were big. And like, up until that point, I'm loving it. Like, winds, we're beasting it along that ocean. I'm like, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
My friends are like, oh my God. Like, you know.
Terrified.
They're like they're a nervous wreck more than I am. I'm having the greatest time, and until obviously I've smashed my teeth and gone over.
Yeah.
But when I remember when I was just crossing the Atlantic, I turned around and I was on deck with a guy called Jonathan. I was like, oh, there's a really big wave coming.
Wow.
So I've turned around and hung on to the safety lines. Good. Jonathan's turned around, got this massive wave. Smash him in the face.
Oh
the wave has taken my feet from under me on board.
Wow.
Right? And we were on a tall ship, and I slid down the safety lines. Right, and I'm still giggling because I'm like, I'm loving this.
This is a roller coaster.
Yeah, wow. But again, it's, you know, it's how can we find joy in every moment?
Yes. Yeah.
And how can we use what we're experiencing to actually pay it forward. Because I mean, some of the things I've been through, I mean, like without going into too much detail, because just you can buy my book, but that's why I wrote them even. But it's, you know, when you have certain things happen to you in life, we have to remember they don't happen to us. They happen for us.
Absolutely.
And it's about always finding the positives from the negatives.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it's like being able to, once you've gone through something quite harrowing, what's the worst that can happen when you speak your truth?
Yeah.
If you have been through this, when you own your truth, so much more is possible, you know. And one of the things that I was asked at an author talk once is there anything you're afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I was really like, oh my gosh, I'm afraid of snakes, but not anymore.
Afraid of snakes, but not anymore.
Yeah, I was. And then my friend Renelle and Troy got their snake out of the tank, and I was like, if you're doing, you're going to hold it. I was like,
Face that fear,
not.
right? Yeah.
Maybe not. Okay, I will. It took me a whole day to brace myself. But I just looked at my voice. I was like, the thing I'm most afraid of is letting those two down.
Yeah, I was going to say about the kids.
Yeah, and my eldest looked at me, and he has the eyebrow thing going on. He has amazing eyebrows, and one of them shot up about here. Guess, well, that's never going to happen, is it? I was like, oh, well then no. But then
no, I'm not.
but then I do get scared.
Sure.
You know, like you said, we're living at the moment this is going out, we're all quarantined.
Right.
When am I going to get to see my children again? They were due here 3 days before quarantine hit. I was like,
darn it.
I've got to get to Brazil. I'm having plans with my children. How dare you? It's so inconvenient.
Right.
You know?
There's
my
a lot
new
of
phone is on its way with my new headphones and everything. Like, it's just. But what's been really interesting for me is everybody is wearing this mask. And I'm interested to see how their perception of women who wear the niqab is going to change after this. Because I don't know how it is in the States, but in the UK, people were afraid of that.
Yeah.
And now that everyone's wearing a mask and most of their face is covered.
Right.
Like, is that perception, and is that, like, that, what kind of shifts are going to be happening inside of people, and are the judgments of people that we were once afraid of,
yes,
how is that going to shift? And are we, you know, I'm finding this a really fascinating time, because there's so many, like, using the ego hacks, we're in so much positioning that we're right and we're going to prove a point, and so many truths that we once held on to, or so many values and beliefs we once held on to.
yes.
I mean, I don't think, you know, that one chap accused me of thinking more about myself and my business than my voice. I said, no, they're having an amazing time with their dad. You should see the way they've pimped out my old apartment with Alexa turning on the lights and declaring something,
Smart
announcing
house.
something throughout the house. I'm like, oh my God, I've been replaced by Alexa.
I've been replaced by a dot. Unbelievable. You know, and I think that, again, just even that judgment called, and nothing wrong with the person, but, you know, we have judgments about how people live their lives, how it may affect the kids or what have you. But remember, you know, the kids actually, whether you stayed on land, right, and gave up this dream and didn't listen to your soul until they're out of school, or you chose what you chose and moved in and completely dove into it, our kids, I have a teenager as well, are creating their experience of you. They're creating the experience. So someone can't, even I struggle with that. I mean, there's times where I'm noticing myself, you know, of course that's the control mechanism, right? The need for control is, how am I, you know, navigating her upbringing, right? At this point. And, you know, and of course, my story, I had a childhood that I wouldn't wish upon anyone, including my child. So I knew growing up, I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not putting her in a, you know, an abusive household, and with drug and alcohol and physical abuse to the mom and, you know, my mother and, you know, things like that. And so I knew from that young age, I was like, that's not going to happen. You know, I had a very clear decision made. However, what if I hadn't had that experience in my own life? And, it's like, I'm not a victim of that. It sucked when I was going through it, but I look at that and look at what it's taught me, and what choices, what, possibilities it showed me, and all of it. And so I feel like we tend to project our own fears and our own concerns and our own judgments of how it's going to affect someone, and we have absolutely no idea. Your children you have two kids, one made to make a decision. It's like same circumstance, mom on a boat, same circumstance, but both children may very quickly and easily decide to believe and experience that circumstance very differently. And so which one's right? Had you not followed your soul, for you, they're still going to create the experience of it no matter what. They're still going to make their own decision about it ultimately. They're still going to, so the personal ownership, I think, of all of us to see our circumstances, and to, and of course start to really let go of the, we can make a safe home, we can create, we don't have to intentionally create trauma, but kids are still going to be traumatized. It could be this pandemic, and you have to be at homeschooled. I mean, that could be traumatic, right? However, the belief loops that are getting created, as small children, they are creating their own human experience from a very young age. And yes, if we can create some safety and, like a safe house to live in, and, all those things. But I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to have this traditional, perfect life. And, it's like, I'm not upset with my mother, it's like I've done a lot of work, it's like, certainly there was a time I was, but it's like, now I can just be grateful for the blessing and of the experience. You can say thank you for smashing your teeth into the deck of the boat, because it detached you from the attachment you didn't know was there about how you look, or how you, whatever that is, or what the hang up was about teeth, and I think that when you shared that quick story about the big, huge waves, I mean, I think we're in a big wave right now. I think we're in a storm that we never expected to show up. And yet, if we can just hold on to the and fly with it, and we might get some bumps and bruises, and maybe our teeth smashed out. I don't know, but if we survive it, we're still breathing.
Well, we can just put a mask on and just pretend we're still afraid of growth.
When we smash our teeth in on the deck of the boat, which is maybe what we're doing right now, we can just put a mask on.
And I'll tell you what was really quite interesting on this last, because I've done mixed martial arts before, and I absolutely love it. And I used to name my bruises, I'd be like, okay, that's Corsica, that's Russia, that's Europe. That's just a little time I don't know what that island is. And I remember that when we were on the beach, me and a couple of girls that I went sailing with before, and we just looked at each other and we went, spot the sailor girls. We had bruises like on our thighs and on our hips. Because when you're on the boat, and obviously you're moving around, and like, especially when it's a smaller yacht, and like there's a door here, or like you've been smashed into this, or like not smashed into it, but you're knocking into things.
Sure.
And, I mean, I love it. I mean, I love being in the galley cooking, and like I'm there chopping away, and like people are like, oh my God, will you stop doing that? I'm like, what? When I trained as a chef, like back in the day, and so I'm used to using knives really quickly, and so everybody else is freaking out that there I am with a proper knife, none of these little tiny knives that you cut cheese with. I'm talking a proper knife here.
Right.
A bit like Crocodile Dundee goes, it's not a knife, that's a knife. And that's so I'm there in the galley chopping veggies and nuts and stuff, putting on it, and people are like, oh my God, would she just stop chopping with that knife?
She's gonna chop her finger as soon as the boat moves.
I have all 10 of those.
Got it. Yeah, I know. I mean, gosh, you have like just dropped little teasers about the life that you have led, and I know there's a lot more to share, and so I do encourage people to get your books. I'm assuming a lot of those stories are in there. Your life, you and me both, we've talked a lot about our crazy paths and journeys and all the different experiences we've had, and I think, that's what makes living, right? Is to create, the opportunity for experiences. And I am just watching. I do think this is a fascinating time as well. And when I get wrapped into, my own ego tricks and consumed
we're
by
not
the
immune
worry.
from all of this stuff. Even
Yeah.
though we coach it and teach it, we're not immune from it.
Completely. Yeah. I'm a student of my own work or message here for sure. I'm just reminded how, we can live in wonder of life. We can live in the fascination of what's happening, and not the blame game, and not the hatred game, and not the anger game, and just be in the experience of the big waves that we've got going on, and how we come out of it, and how, the waves will calm down. The ocean does not stay at 6 foot high, whatever, or 6 meters, whatever they are. You have a different calculation. The ocean doesn't stay there. It's not permanent, right?
She's wild and free and powerful and calm and just, I mean, why would you not want to be the ocean?
You and me both. I think that's why we connected. I moved next to the ocean because of how connected I am. But some might.
I declared from here on in.
Yes.
I am never, because the apartment I'm in at the moment was the only one available for while I was here in Argentina, while I'm waiting for quarantine to finish. Right? Yeah. There's no ocean view, Jenna.
Oh no.
I might be right near the marina, but there is no ocean. This is never happening again. And one of the things I'd like to leave your listeners with, because this is the thing about fear and not knowing. When I was sailing up the Coral Coast with 4 fabulous guys, 3 brothers, I mean, I'll never forget them, and I hope I get to sail with them again, Paul, Ray, and Dom. We'd been at sea for just over 10 days, going through, and we get to Hitchinbrook Island just off I think we're about a week from Cairns. It's all a blur. It always is when you're at sea. And Paul jumps in, has a quick dip and a wash off. I've gone, let's go swimming. Start swimming around the boat. And Ray's go, Dawn, are you getting back in now? I was like, no, I'm just going to do another lap. And he's like, no, you just get back in. Dom's like, is she not back in the boat yet?
Come on.
And Paul's like, oh my God. Dawn, do you want to get back? I was like, just one more lap. These 3 had been winding me up quite considerably, like 3 older brothers should do, in my opinion, just to prepare as young ladies for the world. And then they're like, you do realise, when I got back on and we're all dried and a cup of coffee and everything, you do realise this is Crocodile Central. I was like, no, it's not. They're like, yeah, it is. I was like, stop winding me up, all right? And until recently.
Wow.
And this is over a year later, I find out Hitchinbrook Island actually is Crocodile Central. It
is under your.
It is proper crocodile country. I mean, Dundee would have had great fun. Wow. But I was like, well, why did you let me go in then? And Paul goes, if you'd have known, would you have had as much fun?
Yes,
like, no.
You anticipate.
He goes, but you got in and you swam and you were a picture. You were just like, yes, one more.
It's almost like the on what we don't know, and the
absolutely. What it is, those are things we know that we know, and the things we don't know. No, there's the things we know that we know, and the things we know we don't know. But the gold is in the things we don't know that we don't know.
That's right. Underneath the surface. Yep. Yes, I call that below the line, and above the line is all those conscious, understanding.
Yeah, all the juicy stuff is there. But he's right. Had I have known, and this is the thing, fear keeps us stuck. And this is why I always say to clients, and I learned it from another mentor of mine, Regan, what's the next level? Step into that, go to the next level, step into that, go to the next level, because otherwise the fear will keep us stuck. And I think I'm just about to do a matrix ringer.
I caught all of it though. Yeah.
Everyone's online now. I've been online for 3 years and you've all come online and it's Stop messing with my internet,
I'm
you
messing
lot.
with my Wi-Fi. Yes. I mean, I love that we've, tapped into some really powerful analogies, and more importantly, you're living a life that is aligned with your soul. You know what you've got to do. And it's like, I think right now is a great time for everyone to ask themselves, if not now, when.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I call it the death of the ego is happening for most of us, because the moment that our comfort zones are shattered, and and our fears are amplified, and our need for certainty is amplified, the death of the ego is happening. It's trying to hold on for survival. And the truth is, we are safe and we are whole without it. And yet it's trying to control the crap out of us so that, it has the last word. And when we can just say, ego, I don't need you right now. My soul, my higher self has me supported, has me protected, and is going to guide me to what I need to hear right now, and take action on that. I think our whole lives can open up. And that's what I think you've done. And we haven't even tapped into all of the ups and downs that you've had. Like I said, go read her book.
Well, see, this is the thing. One of the things I've done is we all go through and we all have curveballs thrown at us throughout life. And, I created the Phoenix Rising 21-day challenge because wherever you're at, whatever life is throwing at you, whether it is this corona, whether it is, you've just lost a child or a loved one, you're starting over.
Yeah.
It's all about, what is it that's going on in our life right now that we can use to rise? What is it? What can we create in this space?
Right.
And how can we take everything we've learned and bring it forward? All the skills we've learned, which ones we're going to take forward, and really start to see ourselves in all of this.
Yeah.
And then go and create a brand new existence, because we're not, I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't want to go back to what was before.
Yeah, why do we want to go back?
Why go back?
Yes.
Why
Find a new sunset, a new shore,
Absolutely.
a new
Every day
experience.
is a new day. That's why I'm called Dawn, obviously.
That's awesome.
Just like my mother had.
That was brilliant. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Dawn is a new
Go,
day.
Mom.
I love that. And oh my gosh, we might have to have a second version of our conversation. There's so much more. But
There's always more.
There's always more, right? So let's wrap this up and let everyone, number one, they have to know how to connect with you. I highly recommend it. So what's the best way for them to do that?
They can connect with me via dawnbates.com. This is going through a bit of a revamp at the moment, so bear with us if some of the links are not working, but dawnbates.com. They can contact me via Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn. Just look for Dawn Bates Author Coach or Real Dawn Bates, and I chose Real Dawn Bates to keep myself real. Always show up as your real, authentic self. Yeah, keeps you on tack, that one.
Staying real, yeah, for sure. And so a final question, yes, everybody, and I know you've got a lot of free resources and tips and things like that, whether you're an author of your life or you're author and want to write it down, or just be empowered by you and your story, and your coaching is amazing. So please check out Dawn's website. But I like to wrap these conversations up with a question. And that question is, if this was your very last interview, very last opportunity to be seen or be heard, what would be the message you would want to leave with everyone?
Own your truth and speak it.
Yeah.
It's the best gift of freedom you'll ever have.
Yeah. I love it. And it is, it's that simple. And I so appreciate you. Own your truth and speak it. That connects to me very deeply, and it makes a huge amount of sense coming out of your mouth. What you stand in the world for. So, and I'm really happy you ended on that note. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're so welcome. And if you liked what you heard, if you want to hear more, make sure you subscribe to the podcast or subscribe to YouTube. I post the videos everywhere, and you can certainly listen in to more episodes on the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. So thank you so much, Dawn. I love you. Thank you.
Love you too, darling.
Bye for now. Let's go get our Brave on. Ciao.
Yeah.